Let's go back to the other phases of the attack, now that we spoke in detail about trust here. The next phase of the attack is when the malware radios home. And this is actually the first unique opportunity that we have to detect movement. That's camouflage paparazzi doing his move, and we can actually, detect that movement. What are the best practices that can help me during this stage of the attack? Well, there is where you need a good SIEM like Curator. And Curator can easily detect command and control communications, because our network anomaly detection, for example, sees that you are doing RC traffic over a port that typically is port 80 to go through the firewall. But that our network anomaly detection detects that very easily. Another thing that you can do is actually do some DNS forensics to see, your users, where it is that they're going. The registrar information is vast and massive, but you cannot typically process that when you go online. I encourage you to actually look in YouTube for Curator and Big Data Extension, or just the word DNS Forensic and Curator, and you'll find a video that shows a demonstration on how that actually works. This is also a good time to talk about some POYD's best practices. We have an ISAM technology, our access management, is an appliance that is extremely good at allowing people to just do from their mobile device, you scale, and that's what we do actually here in IBM, to get the mail and the calendar information through the reverse proxy in a very secure way. And then all access to the data, like the IBM phone book and even voice over IP calls and other special applications. We actually have special apps written with WorkLight, which has integration with the ISAM device to use the same password for it, and that are scanned with AppScan, which scans iOS and Android applications. And that is where we get access to the rest of the stuff. You typically do not allow people to go from a mobile device, particularly if you don't manage the device, to go straight into the intranet, but to go only to mail, calendar, and special apps. We prefer to go over VPNs versus IPsec for that reason, and also because it saves a lot of battery. With ISAM, we implement risk-based authentication, and we do geolocation, we do behavioral, we do device profiling to make sure that the device is the right device. And we also allow to do multi-factor authentication. That part of the risk-based authentication, we can actually step up and allow the user to provide a second factor via phone, SMS, one-time password. There's a variety of mechanisms for that. So just a short notice and on best practice on bring your own device to work. Now let's talk quickly about the next phase, the lateral move. Now the hacker is trying to fix their position and see what are the targets. They find somebody in the company, but now I need to know where the admins are. I got somebody to click. How do I get to go to the admin or the exec? Well, I'm going to be doing external scanning. Well, a good SIEM can detect that. Commands like, if you see a command like net, local, groups, admin, get rewrite it to a particular file. Well, that's something that our SIEM detects, and that's not typically anything good. Another technology that can help tremendously here is privileged identity management, in which this is a mechanism where selective accounts like admin accounts or executive, without they knowing anything, when they click into a sensitive application, they are going to be generated a one-time password that gets used to log them in. And typically a keylogger, when the keylogger grabs that password and is going to try to use it again, it's going to provide a failed login, and our SIEM can detect that and indicates the presence of malware in it. And these actually have saved some people during actual attacks. The next phase is when the individual prepares their way to send data back. So it's going to install some backdoor technologies. What are the best practices to protect them? And of course, this is beyond good patching. If you don't have a good patching strategy, then you have another problem. Let's say that you are very effective, use something like Big Fix that gets 98 and plus of your users actually patch. Well, we saw in the previous chart that Trusteer can be a tremendous help in here, because it will detect that the malware is in there, and in fact Rapport can actually remove the malware for you. Again, having a good SIEM that detects network anomalies is basic in this particular case. One thing that is very important is to be able to protect your databases, because that's the objective of the bad guy. So you need some dam protection that will help you in with zero logs, and that's, for example, what Guardian does. If you, to protect a database by looking at the logs or what's happening, it's not only not very easy to do, it can consume a lot of performance. It can bring the performance down of your database servers, and it's going to be very hard for you to actually match those things. With Guardian, you don't take any logs from it, but you actually can not only detect that somebody is trying to go into a bad site, but actually block that user from actually going in there. And you can do far more. I encourage you to actually look more into Guardian for more details into that. And the other important thing is to make sure that your tools, like your IPSs and your SIEM, get IP reputation. Again, this is for SIEM as well as IPSs, because we know what the bad sites are. And so if you get that is coming from that particular IP address, you can actually block that. Now comes they say that you haven't stopped the malware from here. Well, here's where the bad guys are going to fragment, compress, encrypt, and disguise the data, and are going to be sending that data home. And that is another instance of movement that is going to happen. They are going to be actually doing that. Actually, there's been some interesting recording of hackers actually using rat tools, and you see them remote logging, and actually they try a lot and they have a lot of patience, or they can actually make a program that does that, so they can do it manually over a batch. They're definitely going to be trying to use SSL to tunnel the information, or some sort of VPN to protect the data transfer. They're going to be sending RAR files. That's typical. Well, when you say RAR files going out, you may want to have your SIEM to protect, to investigate those things better. What are the best practices to protect on that, against that? Well, again, if you have a good SIEM that can detect unusual traffic. And one of the things that Curera does very well is that it creates a baseline. What is the normal traffic? What are the things that we normally do? So if we see that that particular individual is actually sending FTP data, and is sending the SCP data outside the company, and so outside the US or the country that you operate, well, that brings a great relevance, and we've actually been doing that for years. Again, IP reputation is key here. If you see communication to IPs that are known for being bad, that's actually good. In particular, Curera, if you see the DNS Forensics video that I mentioned before, you'll see an example where we actually create reference sets of bad sites that are being used specifically for your company. And a good SIEM should be able to detect not massive amount of data, but for example, typical is small but periodic data out. Because they are not greedy, they have patience, they try to send the stuff little by little, so your SIEM should be able to actually detect those unusual, or not unusual, but frequent patterns of small data actually going out. And that's where the flows are so important. They are not going to be logging what they do, so if you only collect logs, good luck with that. You're not going to be able to see that. And having your SIEM and or Trusteer to detect remote desktop protocols, RDP and VNC, PC Anywhere, any one of those that, what do they make any sense, particularly if they go outside. Access to, anonymous proxies. Well, why is my corporate people using an anonymous proxies? What am I sending files with hidden attributes? So I don't want the file to be visible. Well, why is that? So if you have a good SIEM, you can actually detect those things. But again, you are going up to the, up to the last part of the attack. But that's your last opportunity for actually detect that, and make sure that you have a security intelligence strategy that detects this, and you know when these things happen, and you can act accordingly.